Jungkook's birthday this year felt different as Suga chose a simple yet meaningful way to celebrate it, deciding to spend quiet time together in a small recording studio that had long been one of their favorite places to work, opting not for a lavish party filled with guests, but for an intimate atmosphere centered on togetherness. From the afternoon, Suga arrived early to prepare everything, bringing light snacks they often shared during busy schedules rather than extravagant dishes, and decorating the studio with only a few balloons and a modest birthday cake designed with personal touches reflecting Jungkook's warmth as both a singer and an individual. When Jungkook arrived, the studio was filled with the aroma of warm food and soft lighting, and Suga greeted him warmly, guiding him to sit without any fuss, making the celebration feel deeply personal, away from the noise of cameras and large gatherings. On the table sat the cake with a simple candle alongside carefully arranged food to enjoy together. And for Jungkook, who was used to receiving birthday wishes in grand settings, this quiet attention carried a different weight, coming not just from a colleague, but from someone who had shared years of music and life like a brother. They spent the evening enjoying food while listening to old recordings stored on the studio computer, with Suga playing tracks from their early career, bringing natural reminders of simpler times without turning the night into dramatic nostalgia, just appreciating the journey. Jungkook nodded and smiled softly as he recognized his younger voice on those recordings, while Suga quietly watched, letting him take in the memories before moving on to newer pieces they had been working on. Time passed gently, the studio turning into a private space with no staff or photographers, only two people savoring their connection, the sound of rain outside adding warmth to the night as a simple cake was cut and shared, free of ceremonial grandeur, just authentic companionship. The celebration carried depth not because of scale, but because it gave Jungkook a moment to feel genuine care, unpolished by publicity. And through Suga's thoughtful preparation, it was clear the gift was not the event itself, but the experience of closeness. As the evening ended calmly, Jungkook left the studio with a lasting sense of warmth, carrying a memory of a birthday unlike any other, one not defined by spectacle but by sincerity, while Suga stayed behind for a while to quietly tidy up, letting everything settle back into routine life. In the end, the significance of this birthday lay in its ordinariness, showing how bonds could be nurtured not only with grand gestures, but also through the quiet weight of small, wholehearted acts, leaving this year's celebration feeling deeply special in its simplicity. The following morning carried a sense of calm continuity as Jungkook woke with the memory of the night still fresh, and rather than being swept into a stream of scheduled events or large public appearances, he allowed the simplicity of what Suga had arranged to set the tone for his day, beginning with a quiet breakfast at home before heading out for a light rehearsal. Meanwhile, Suga, after finishing up late at the studio, took the day with a slower rhythm. Starting from a modest coffee shop he often visited near his apartment, where he reviewed some notes for ongoing projects, while still thinking about how Jungkook's birthday had unfolded. The celebration had been deliberately kept private, without announcements or public posts, so what lingered was not the spectacle, but the sense of grounding and friendship, something that shaped how each of them approached the hours that followed. When Jungkook later arrived at the rehearsal space, a few staff members acknowledged his birthday with warm gestures, offering small snacks and decorations that had been prepared casually. And while these tokens were appreciated, the previous night's intimacy gave him a more reflective attitude toward the day. He went through vocal warm-ups and light choreography practice with a steady focus, quietly balancing the energy of a busy career with the personal contentment he carried. Suga, not present at rehearsal, had instead arranged a brief visit in the afternoon to drop by and share a short break with Jungkook, carrying with him a box of simple drinks and snacks as if to extend the understated mood of the celebration, again avoiding excess but reinforcing presence. The interaction was straightforward, no dramatic exchanges, just the natural flow of time shared, which for Jungkook created a rhythm of the day that felt anchored rather than hectic. As the day advanced, Jungkook's schedule included a recording session planned for late afternoon, a task he approached with quiet motivation, influenced by the positive weight of Suga's support. Inside the studio, the technical process unfolded as usual, with producers adjusting sound levels and engineers focusing on details, yet there was an underlying steadiness in Jungkook's voice that reflected how grounded he felt. Suga stayed nearby, not interfering but listening attentively, occasionally making small notes on his phone about elements that could be refined later, embodying the supportive role of a senior colleague who had learned to balance encouragement with constructive distance. Hours passed in steady work, and by early evening the recording wrapped with a sense of quiet satisfaction rather than exhaustion, leaving everyone in the room with the impression of a productive and grounded session. Afterward, instead of heading to a large celebratory dinner, Jungkook and Suga decided to keep the evening light, moving together with a few close staff members to a casual restaurant not far from the studio, a place they had visited often over the years for quick meals. The setting was unpretentious, filled with ordinary chatter from other customers, blending the two of them into the everyday rhythm of the city. And it was in that environment that the continuation of the birthday quietly took shape. They shared food in an unhurried manner, the conversation flowing naturally among everyone at the table without the weight of formality or the pressure of appearances. For Jungkook, the day had become a balance of professional duties and understated moments of personal care, while for Suga, it was another chance to demonstrate that birthdays need not be defined by scale, but by sincerity. As the dinner wound down, they parted ways for the night without ceremony, Jungkook returning home with a calm spirit, and Suga heading back to his apartment with a steady contentment of having done something meaningful. Nothing about the day carried the markers of celebrity extravagance, yet that was precisely what gave it significance, as the simplicity allowed for the essence of connection to remain at the center. The continuation of the celebration into this day was not in the form of grand gestures, but in maintaining an atmosphere of presence. And as both of them settled into the quiet of the evening, the impression that lingered was one of steady gratitude and unspoken understanding, reinforcing how the bond between them had been built not on fleeting spectacles, but on the consistent rhythm of shared time and genuine gestures. The next day unfolded with a return to routine, yet the subtle weight of the birthday lingered in small gestures and quiet acknowledgments, shaping the atmosphere around Jungkook and Suga as they continued their work. Jungkook began his morning with a gym session, keeping to the discipline that had long been part of his daily life. And though the session itself was intense, he carried an inner calm that stemmed from the grounding experience of the past 2 days.